Hi everyone, I'm really looking forward to seeing you later in the week, and I wanted to go through a pre-workshop guide to get ready for the workshop this Friday. So one thing that you'll need to do before the workshop is to install R on your computer. This QR code will bring you to the website where you can install R, and then your second step will be to install RStudio. So I'm going to go along with you and pretend like I've never put R into my computer. So if you click the link or scan the QR code, you'll be brought to this website that says RStudio Desktop. You need to do this in the correct order where you first install R and then you install RStudio. So if you click the download and install R, you should be rerouted to the comprehensive R archive network. So you're going to want to choose R for Linux, R for Mac, or R for Windows. So since I'm on a Windows computer, I'm going to download R for Windows, but if you're on a Mac computer, you would download R for Mac OS. When you click this to download, you can click on Install R for the first time. And from here, I'm just going to click Download R for Windows. And you can see that my download has started. And if I click on that, then I can run the executable file. Let's see if it opens for me. And I'm going to do English. I'm going to accept the terms. This is where the R program is going to be saved. I'm okay with that. And I'm going to just accept the defaults, which I've always done. And if you want to choose another folder, you can browse the locations. I'm okay with where it's putting it. And now it's just extracting the files, and R should be set up soon. Now, if you want to, you can just use R without RStudio, and it works perfectly fine. But if you like the setup of RStudio, then after you install R, then you'll have to do an extra step to install RStudio. Let's see if once this is extracted, we can just look at R by itself. So if I go to my Start menu, and I can do R 4.3.2, and this is what the R looks like without using RStudio. We have our console, and if we wanted to start a new script, this would be an editor that we could type our code in, and we could start coding right away. So I could start typing a comment by putting a hashtag or a number sign, and I could say, this is a comment for my code, and then I could start coding right away. If you want a nicer view or setup, I'm sorry, let me make that a little bigger. If you want a bit of a nicer setup, then you can go into the RStudio mode. So if I go back to our pre-workshop guide and we go back to the RStudio install page, now once we've installed R onto our computer, we could click on Install RStudio, and we'll be able to look at the differences. It's downloading the file now. Takes a little bit, and that's okay. So we can catch up in a minute. Almost done. Here it is. So I'm going to click on RStudio. And yes. And now we're in the RStudio setup. Once again, I'm working on a PC. So if you're working on a Mac, this could look slightly different. But it should be also somewhat similar in the process. We're going to click Next. I'm going to click Install. And it's trying to extract the RStudio setup, and my computer started to run. If you ever get stuck when you're trying to install R, if you, for example, a year ago used R and you just think, oh, I'm going to jump to RStudio, there can be some issues, so I would just start over from the beginning. Even though you already have R on your computer, I would install the newest version of R. And then I would install the newest version of RStudio on top of that. Because sometimes the old versions don't work with all the packages that have been updated. So it's just easier to start fresh if you've stepped away from using R. And if you use R regularly, then it's always good to remember that sometimes we should update our R, even though that might mean that you have to make a few more updates. So I'm clicking Finish to finish the RStudio setup. And if I go to the Start menu, then I thought I would see the recently added RStudio. Let's click one more time. I'm going to search for it since I didn't see it right away. RStudio, here we go. All right. And this says RStudio requires an existing installation of R. That's why step 1 is to install R and step 2 is to install RStudio. So I'm going to use the machine's default version and then press OK. And now RStudio is opening. And as you can see, this is very similar to R when it opened, but it has some extra information here. Now, here in your global environment, most likely yours is blank. Mine has some things that it remembers from previous time. If I press this clear objects, yes, now this environment should look how you downloaded RStudio. Okay, so on the left, we have the console, just like we had the console before. And here in RStudio, I could say File, New File, RScript. And so now this is where I would type my code like we did before. I'm going to make it a little bigger. This is a comment. And this is the console where the actual code is ran and executed. Once again, this is where we're going to write all of our code. One major difference is that in a PC, it's called a script, but on a Mac computer, it might be called a document. So instead of doing File, New File, RScript, it might say something like File, New Document. So there are slightly different menus between the PC version of R and the Mac version of R. So just be aware that I am on a PC, but it should be quite similar in the look once you have RStudio loaded. All right, I look forward to seeing you on Friday, and hopefully this made it so that you could install R before the workshop. Bye.